Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. This is Faith.Family.Focus, and I am your co-host, Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate, former Long Island University women's basketball director, basketball operations and social media manager, and now currently founder and CEO of Brand by Faith, a social media company that helps you find your brand. And this wonderful man in the beautiful white or ivory is my father, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and has also started on the executive board and as VP with NFLPA, NFL Former Players of Chicago. Good morning. Happy Monday.
It's white. So just so you know, so happy Monday to you, Faith Suggs.
I think it looks beautiful on you. It's beautiful on your chocolate skin, Dad. How are you? How's the weather in Chicago?
It's absolutely beautiful here. So fireworks last night, got a chance to see them from afar. Of course, it looked like every neighborhood around me was shooting off fireworks. I'm surprised that we didn't have fires, because they were all over the place. But it was nice to have a 4th of July back. For such a difficult year.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And, Chicago, you still can't purchase fireworks, correct? That hasn't changed?
Yeah, people go over to Indiana and get them and bring them back.
Got you. Well, they're illegal to purchase here in Kansas. So we just drove to the top of a hill and parked the car, and you can see all over.
Wait, there's a hill in Kansas?
I don't know why you keep saying this. For some people, I don't know. I'm in the area of Kansas. I don't know if I'm in the northern, central, or south, where there's a bunch of hills and rolling green hills and stuff. So that's where I am. But yes, northern Kansas does get a little flat, where you go to more closer to Wamego, where Wizard of Oz was supposed to be filmed. But no, exciting stuff. NBA playoffs has been a little lag because now we have two contenders for the NBA finals, the Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks, which is what I told you was going to happen.
So you know who I'm rooting for, right?
Who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for the Suns.
Oh, well, you also were rooting for the Atlanta Hawks for some reason. I really don't understand why you keep. No, the Suns is a good one. Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. That's a fun one. Monty, we got one black head coach left. We got one representing in the finals. That's fun. Good stuff. And I love his story because you know his story. I'll tell you about it. But yeah, his story is special, and he got the Sager Award. But good morning, everyone. Welcome. Good morning.
Our teammate Michael. I said, hi, Michael. So Michael and Don actually came in the same year, I think. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So exciting stuff. Those of you who are new, this is Faith Family Focus. Our goal is to use our stories and our faith to strengthen the family core of our viewers and those around us. And in the process, we work on our own relationship as well. We are 100+ episodes in total, and we are on season 2, episode. This is officially 16, which is kind of crazy already. We had a wonderful show on Friday with 2 great guests giving back. We had Reggie Smith from the NFLPA and Dr. Utica Gray, with, I'm blanking. I want to say Fresh Start. Dad, what is the name of the
Caregiving for Kids?
Yes. That's an awesome one that's out of Hyde Park. So that was a really great show. I think they did an awesome job. Reggie always does a great job when he joins us. And Fridays are fun. So while you're joining us, remember to share the show. Bring your friends to meet us. Comment, say hello. We comment back. I know a lot of people are off today, so the show will get shared a few times and we get to meet some new people. Dad, do you want to kind of give a rundown on what today is going to be all about, and a little bit about, it's actually special because this was really kind of close to our first show as well.
Yeah, it is. It's a special show. Our first episode, #GirlDad, was inspired obviously by our story and our story, our own personal story, your relationship, my relationship after losing Mom, and how we navigated through life. You were a teenager, and then of course what really dominated that was sports. You're playing basketball, and it was a path. And we have presented a few stories, making of an athlete, of a champion, related to that journey, from recruiting to a parent's role to a father's role. And I just thought it'd be a really good idea. We have Donald Dotson, who a former teammate at Ball State University, we had earlier. He loves that picture. He actually has an afro, so that's kind of neat. So, and he has a lovely daughter, Alexis Dawson, who actually played softball at Arizona. Phenomenal softball player. Now working on her PhD at Howard University. Wonderful family. And I think we have some similar stories to tell. And I thought it would be appropriate to bring them on. I've always wanted to bring them on to kind of share their journey also and have us kind of compare, some and throw some advice out to the fathers who are navigating a path for their daughters and what that looks like, whatever sport that looks like. It's definitely a balancing act, but then,
Right.
Donald and I both are in the same spot of just kind of letting go and watching you guys just kind of flourish. So
Right.
I'm excited to bring them on.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. I'm excited for the show today. I think this is going to be a fun one. We have some good back-to-back shows for season 2. I'm really excited about it, and we have more to come. I'm excited. I think we're going to go to commercial break, and when we come back, they'll be right there ready for us, and we'll start talking about girl dads. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys? Alexis, you are in DC, correct?
Yes.
And then Donald, where are you?
I'm here at the house in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Mexico. I've never been to New Mexico, Dad, actually. You've never taken me.
It's definitely a place you guys need to visit, the Southwest.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Alexis is like,
You're not missing much, but you can always go see us. It's not a big deal.
Awesome. Well, we thank you guys for joining us. I know Mondays are busy. And Alexis, I know you're running here and there. So we are so glad that we got to grab you guys. And we're really thankful and ready to share your story. Alexis, let's just dive right in. What is your earliest memory with sports?
My earliest memory with sports. I mean, I remember playing, getting into T-ball. I went to this private Christian school, and I don't even know how I signed up for T-ball. But, I mean, I remember T-ball. But I think one of the most significant memories I have with my dad when it comes to sports, and it's totally random. So the summertime I always spent with my dad. My mom was killing it, making the bread, but my dad and I always spent summers together. And it was just a random day that we were at Walmart, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to play tennis."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Cool, let's go get some rackets." So we literally just randomly got rackets, and then that whole summer we just spent playing tennis. But now that I think about it, I think that moment I was like, anything that I really say with sports, he's always going to be like, yeah, why not? Let's just try it. Like literally anything. Hey, Dad, let's go. Let's get a basketball hoop. Hey, Dad, let's do that. Like any little thing that I said when it came to sports, it was like, all right, yeah, let's try it. Granted, the tennis thing didn't go that hot because I was used to softball and I was hitting it all like over the place.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there was some moments where like, stop doing that. But it was still very supportive. But I think that's one of my favorite memories. But earliest, I still remember T-ball. I was killing it at Messiah Christian School.
Donald, so tennis wasn't it? Do you remember that? Was it not the sport?
That was definitely not the sport for her. But she tried, and we left it open to her to try everything, all the different types of sports. My earliest memory of her is when she was like 3, and we had her in gymnastics.
Oh, yeah.
And she was killing it. I mean, the tumbling, everything, the balance beam. And I'm like, to my wife, we're going to have us a little gymnast here. And she had some issues with her sight there, and we took her to the doctor and got her checked. Once we got her checked and she got glasses, She's like, no, I can't do this.
Right.
The balance beam was out. When she could see what she was really trying, what she was doing, she's like, no. And, we just walked away. We just dropped that totally and walked away. So that's one of my fondest memories of her, starting out with a sports thing. And then we graduated, like she said, to the T-ball and the tennis thing. And then, one of her little friends, I think she did with the third grade, Lex, when
it was random.
we got introduced to softball.
Totally.
And it took off from there.
Right. Well, how did we introduce softball? Was it something that you wanted to dive into, Alexis? What was it?
It was literally, I was in class. So I had just transferred schools, like barely. I went from Cedar Valley Christian School to Desert Hills Elementary, so from private to public. And I kind of low-key struggled making friends, but I ended up making one friend. Her name was Ana Fajardo. Shout out to you, Ana. I don't know if you're watching this, but this one, shout out to you. But anyways, yeah, she came up to me and was like, hey, do you want to play softball? I had no idea what softball was. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm gonna go tell my dad. So I told my dad, and my dad was like, okay, cool. So I think our parents had a phone call, and then we went to practice on that Saturday at Sierra Middle School. And literally one of my biggest memories from that practice was we were warming up, and I think, Dad, you'll remember this. We had to run like to a pole or something and then run back. And when I tell you I took off. Like, I left everybody in the dust, like, took off. And I was looking back like, where's everybody? And he was just like, keep going. And I think that's when we discovered I could kind of run fast. But it was totally random. Like, not even, hey, I want to do that. Like, hey, you want to play?
To you.
I have to interject because when you were talking about the tennis, Faith and I had a very similar experience.
Well, hold on. We had a very opposite experience with softball. Softball didn't stick, but tennis. So at the end of the day, I think a lot of my early sports memories were very much motivated by him. And his ideas and what he thought. Well, try this. And at the time, he bought me this Serena and Venus left to right racket. And then he also went and got like 70 tennis balls and the tennis ball picker upper and the water bottle and the little outfit. So he locked in. Tennis was going to be one. I will say this: no matter what sport it was, tennis, like the sport, like we were going to play the sport forever. The way he walked into it. Like, so we got to the court and we played maybe one time, and we probably never picked up the tennis balls again. But a good thing he got that dang tennis ball picker upper because you had to pick them up all over the place.
I was going to go down the street, around the house.
They were gone. Well, that's funny. And then softball, I went to one practice and it was it because I couldn't do the sitting still. And they weren't very good. Something about that. Surround yourself with winners. I learned that. But Don, how important was it for you to kind of get Alexis in sports or get Alexis active?
It was very important to us to have her involved in sports and stuff. Being that I coached, she had been around sports all her life, My wife would bring it to all the games. And like she said, she was with me 24/7 in the summer, doing my summer camps that I had for my kids and my practices and stuff like that. And it was, like I said, we wanted her to do something sports wise. And then, we found that niche softball. It was great. Like I said, I would take her to practice. And when she got a little older, she was in middle school. Like
let them know, Dad. Let them know.
Eighth grade, I would take her to my high school practices.
Yeah.
And she was pitching to the high school girls, and they couldn't hit her. And that's when I knew, like, well, we own to something. we're gonna keep doing this and keep pursuing this. And and then we got to the travel ball thing and stuff like that, and we were out every weekend doing that. I'm quite sure you guys did that with the basketball, the travel ball, and all that stuff. So it manifested into where she is today. It was a great trail. It was exciting. I miss it. That first, let me tell you, when she left to go to college, we were empty nesters, the only child, one child. Man, that was hard. I don't know how hard it was. Well, you had Devin there when Faith left, but man, to be an empty nester, it took us a while to adjust to that.
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. Yeah, I can relate.
Dad, and Devin wanted nothing to do with you a little bit though at that point because he was transitioning to his own schedule, his own sports and stuff. So, but he is officially down an empty nester as of this past year.
Right.
And Devin, but he luckily got Devin home for a little longer, and then with COVID, he was home for a little longer as well. And it's just so funny now that they're two different. It's like two grown men living together.
Right.
Watching that transition the last year has been
interesting, I'd say.
I'm so happy for it to be over. But it is special, the empty nesting, and we have a couple shows talking about that actually, and just it is a big transition for a lot of people. And Dad, I don't know if you want to kind of co-sign with this, but just like figuring out what to fill your time with now that it's not gravitating around another person's mind, Dad?
Yeah, it is, and I can relate. It's a transition, and at least I know that coming up in the fall, I get a chance to watch him play. But God, you traveling to the games and having Alexis hang out with you, man, that just resonates.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of the most memorable moments, especially after us losing Mom. We spent so many hours in that car going back and forth from events. And with a lot of conversation, right? And just to see the growth. But, that's why I thought this would be a wonderful show, because there's probably so much that we can definitely connect with, because it's a moment as a parent that you will never get back. And what we're learning, and as we do this show, there's things that I probably have done differently, but it definitely defines who we are as our relationship right now. And with Devin is very different because he's a boy. But my journey with Faith has helped me navigate the path with Devin. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Quick question to you, Schaefer. How did you deal with I don't know if you did or not, but did you coach your own kids at any point?
Yes, I actually created my own football and basketball program. I wanted to control the culture. So I was their coach. I was their parent. I did everything. And as they got older, especially Faith, I realized that it was really important, being that single parent, for me to figure out how to be a dad, not a coach, and begin to transition Faith into someone else's hands.
Right.
And that was important. Early on, I thought it was important because I felt that I knew enough about the game, and I found that I didn't know enough about coaching. And I had to really understand, just because I played the game doesn't necessarily transcend into a really good coach. I had to learn how to connect with kids, especially girls. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. And by the time Devin came, I pretty much had it under control, because as you well know, when you coach, when you run your own program, dealing with the parents is the hardest thing,
Oh, yes.
Creating the right type of culture for your family, for your kids, and that's what was important. But to your point, I had to hand both of them off. And now I'm at that where you sit back, and Faith will tell you, I don't know about you, Don, but those first couple of years at Duke, man, I was like, okay, why aren't you not playing this and that, and then after a while I realized, wait a minute, this is bigger than basketball. I'm watching a young girl run into a young lady, and I watch leadership. I watch her define her value to the team, and I learned a lot, because it's hard to let go. Yeah, it's hard to let go. I don't know about you. How was that with you? Were you able to sit back and and enjoy Alexis the first couple, 2 or 3 years?
Once she got to college, I had detached myself from trying to coach her. Early on, when we first started out with the travel ball and playing city league ball around here, I used to try to inject my thoughts a lot, and
I'm watching Alexis' eyes.
I can't live with her and coach her.
Right.
That's not going to work. So, my wife and I, my wife would tell me, like, just be the dad. Just go watch and enjoy. And that's what I started doing. And she was with good people. She had good coaching. And I left that alone. And her and our relationship as far as the sports thing, I think it kind of grew. She relaxed more because, if I'm out there yelling something at her, and she's playing and stuff, I didn't realize how much that affected her because I was used to doing that with my own teams, my own players.
Right.
Well, she was different. That was my kid. And I couldn't, I had to realize that I couldn't bring the sport home with me. We could discuss it, but I didn't need to tell her what she needed to be doing because, I could tell her something and she'd look at me like, okay. And then the next day she'd come on and she said, Coach so-and-so said that. Go, oh, okay, that's what I said yesterday, but, we're going to leave that like that.
Yeah. Alexis, during that time period before you went to college, how was that transition that your dad's talking about? Like, what is your take on this whole thing?
I honestly, it's kind of crazy because my story with trying to get recruited and going to college is way different from like a lot of my teammates, even my high school teammates. So for me, there was a moment in time where I didn't even know if I was going to get to go anywhere. I was talking to NMSU at the time, so I thought I was going to stay home. And I had a knee injury my junior year, which took me out of my junior season for softball. Mm-hmm. And I played 2 sports. So I played volleyball and I played softball in high school. My volleyball coach knew that softball would probably be the sport that I would be taking on. So we didn't really push for volleyball. I got a couple like schools talking to me, but it wasn't really a thing. So the main focus was softball. But then when it came down to it with my knee, all of a sudden, I didn't hear no communication at all with NMSU. No other local schools had talked to me. A Division II had told me I could walk on if I wanted to. And then we randomly went to a camp where Pima Community College was there. And they were like, yeah, come for a visit, blah, blah, blah. Literally went to the visit and they were like, you want to sign? And it was in January of my senior year. So it was like, first mom was kind of like, no. I think it's because it was the JUCO route. Mm-hmm. And dad, I don't really know how dad was feeling. I think he just wanted me to play. So, and I honestly want to get out of Las Cruces, Mexico. I am so sorry, y'all, but I'm just being completely honest with you. So I was ready. I was ready. Like, sign me up. Let's go. It's the only person that really wants me. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So I personally was, and I don't know if it's like a woman thing where they do it even in relationships that I've kind of heard, or it's just me. I was already like detaching myself from Las Cruces emotionally. So I was, and my mind was just ready. Like, all right, like let's take something else on. Luckily, when I went for my first year, I went with one of my teammates that I grew up with. So maybe that made them feel a little bit more comfortable. Right. And we lived together. And then we also lived with 2 football players that I went to high school with. Yeah, y'all, that was a good time. So I think the transition for me, they masked it very well. I couldn't really tell if they were feeling apprehensive about it. Maybe my mom a little bit more. But I was good to go. But it's kind of funny because I think my dad was more of the push, go now. And I think that's because he did it himself. And my mom was kind of like, no. And then now, after I had finished undergrad, I think big guy thought I was coming back. And it was like, I'm going to figure this out on my own. So I taught for a year, and then I got my master's. And then I think, again, he was like, oh, yeah, she's coming back. And my mom was like, man, you tripping? She ain't coming back. So mom was like, full blown, okay, she's not coming back. And now he was having a hard time with it, I think. That's why I came off to me. And then I was like, all right, bye, y'all going to the East Coast. Talk to y'all later. Yeah, I think he had the harder time with it. Whereas my mom was like, oh, we know she ain't coming back. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But me, bye. See y'all.
Don, is what she's saying is true. It was just a little harder as you started to realize your daughter is a flying bird.
Yes, it's hard to, clip that wing and let her go. It was her, like she said, it was her and I 24/7. Like my wife was an administrator and, she was the principal of the school. And she spent a lot of time, running the school there. And it was just her and I, all the time, everywhere. It was just her and I. So it was really hard. It was a hard adjustment for me.
Literally.
But, I've come to the fact that to realize that she's a grown woman and she has a life of her own. And I try not to bother her as much as I used to because, I was used to speaking to her every day on a daily basis, several times a day. And now, I'm learning not to call, not to text. I can do it for, maybe 1 or 2 days. And, I'll send her a wave. Hello, are you there? How you doing? Stuff like that. But, she's a grown woman. She's doing well. And I'm very proud of her.
Yeah. Dad, you know all about that little.
Yeah, I'm going through that with Devin right now.
Right.
It's like I communicate to Devin through Faith now, so because they talk all the time. But I did get a chance to talk to him for about 45 minutes the other day. It's great. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that first year when Faith was a freshman, Faith, how you doing? Fine. How you think you played? Okay. It was like one word answers,
Right.
It took a while, man. It's hard.
It really is.
The two of you, Alexis and Faith, you'll know when you have a family, you won't understand it until you go through it. It is hard, especially I can relate, Don. You with your daughter. Your daughter's your queen. So your daughter, you're with them all the time, and then letting go.
Right.
And then all the other stuff,
right.
The boys, that's hard. But you let go and you let God. And you give them the life tools, you give them the life skills that we've given them. So you just sit back and let them flourish. Because I always have to go back to me and when I'm that age, and I figured it out. They figured it out, and but now I'm actively going through it with them now. So. Yeah, right. I can relate.
Right. And so let's take a little pivot and let's talk for the people who are watching who will watch who are other duos and they have girl dads and they're trying to introduce their young ladies into sports. Dad, why don't you take this one away? Because I know you did a lot of research on this and why you think your daughter or stepdaughter should be participating in sports, in team sport. I mean, it can be individual, but why should they be in these environments and communities?
Well, I think it's important. And for me, when I saw that you had a interest, I mean, the one thing was something that for me, I grew up that way. We played sports. My family, we participated in everything, and not just sports. We were in music. We were in Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and it was just one of those things that I was just so used to. And, being an older dad, I just could not wait to be that dad that, we did everything. You were in ballet, you were everything. And, I think if you look back on it, just the amount of growth that you as a young kid experienced being around other kids, being around different kids, competing, dealing with win, dealing with loss. It's important. It's just so important. And, I remember going into corporate America, and first thing I would look on a resume, I would see if that kid played sports competitively, because you find there's so many different qualities that you find in an athlete. And for me, it was just a natural. I mean, when you were born, I'm thinking, okay, WNBA. I got that little picture of you with the WNBA or NBA. It was, so introducing you to that stuff, and you gravitated to it. Everything. I mean, you didn't push back. I mean, because I think it was just part of who we are. And of course, your mom didn't play any sports, but she was really supportive of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Donald, I mean, what do you think was the biggest benefit for Alexis, and honestly, your own experience from being in a team environment?
Well, being my profession was a coach, I felt it to be important to have her involved in sport, because sports builds character, teaches leadership, things of that nature. And, like I was like Schaefer as far as being a dad. I didn't have Alexis, we didn't have her until I was like 40 years old. I kind of put my teaching career, my wife put her career first, and then we had her. And like I said, I felt it to be important to have her around kids, good kids doing good things, and things of that nature. And sports was a good outlet.
Right. Alexis, I mean, from you and your own experience, and now that you're around student athletes every day, what is one of the biggest attributes, like I just asked your dad, that you think has been applying even in today's society?
It's honestly, I think the biggest thing that I got from it was just communication. Like, to put it plain and simple, when you work in a team or you are part of a team, you have to learn how to communicate. And it's not simple to learn how to communicate, because when you're on a team, there's so many different people. And when I say different people, like, people have different backgrounds. They have different stories. They come with we all come with baggage. We all learn differently. We all receive things differently. So I think the biggest thing was just learning how to communicate with different people. And I mean, that's what I do. And I do it now. I work with, I don't know, like 80 young men, which is very different for me, right? Because I'm coming from, I'm on a team of women. So I know how to communicate with women. Whereas now I'm communicating with men, and me being a woman, I'm more of the emotional side, mental health side, and all those kinds of things. And I'm relearning how to communicate with a man and trying to pull those things out of them, and trying to get them to learn how to be able to communicate those things too. Which has been, it's been fun to me, just because I like doing those things. But I think the biggest thing was communication. And it's crazy because I can think about just growing up in travel ball and learning how to communicate with my teammates. I knew that if I went and talked to so-and-so one way, she wouldn't receive it the same way if I talked to the other person that way. Right. And you don't even recognize those things when you're little. And then you transition to high school, right? And now you're a freshman. You need to learn how to find your voice as a freshman if you're playing varsity. Being able to tell a senior, like, yo, what's up? Well, that's not easy. That's kind of hard to do. And then you go to JUCO, and people you don't even know. You got to learn them. You got to learn how to communicate with them. And then you go to the big dogs, and it's like, I have no idea how to figure y'all out, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm completely different. I'm coming from New Mexico. All these women are coming from California. One came from Virginia. But everybody else is like from California. So I would honestly say communication was the biggest thing that I took from it.
Yeah, and learning how to communicate and when to communicate. And you're not just communicating, you're also communicating with adults. You're communicating with professionals, boosters. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it that a lot of kids are figuring out. Comes under the bubble and umbrella of communication. It goes hand in hand with leadership.
Right.
And Dad, that's kind of what you say when you look to hire people, you look to see if they have that background, because communication is a big thing, and also that people hand in hand with, like, they'll be a good leader, they'll be a good teammate, they'll be a good person. hopefully. And so, I mean, Dad, it's funny because you kind of touched on it earlier in the show. And I think this is going to be a good question for you is how did you navigate gender discrimination, realizing the difference between male sports and female sports? How did you navigate that becoming a girl dad?
No, I'm glad you touched on it because I really want to kind of pivot toward Faith and Alexis to where they are in their lives right now, the impact that you're having on, mentoring athletes and with this whole branding image. And then Alexis, you are in a position, and you both are female, and all the things that are happening with women right now, all the way back from the NBA, WNBA scandal with the weights and the weight room and all that type of stuff. But, it was important to me, and I was a big Title IX person, it was important to me that, we put our best foot forward. And I was very aware of how important it was. And your mom was the same way, how important it was to recognize the value of women in leadership. And it's so neat to watch it today. It's so neat to watch it. And, as you guys were talking, the two of you, and then we were talking about girl dad. And, Don and I have talked enough where we could talk on and on about the do's and the don'ts about being a girl dad and supporting your kids. But I just think having the both of you on the show right now, I think it'd be a good idea just to kind of talk a little bit about, what is happening with the student athlete right now and what are some of their challenges and what can, Faith, I know that some of these kids now will have opportunity they wouldn't otherwise have. And then Alexis, I know in your role, you look at some of these, and you as a female, the impact your voice, or is it having on some of these? Are they going to listen to you? And I just want to kind of touch on that aspect of it because it's going to be really interesting to see how we're going to go forward with this. So I wanted to kind of touch on that, Faith and Alexis.
Well, I guess from my perspective, when we talk about women athletes in today's society, with everything that's evolving, everything that's changing, I think my biggest thing is that women hold a lot more value with recent changes in rules, name, image, likeness, than people think. I think they're a lot more brandable. I think they're more marketable. I think they come with more doors and categories and communities they can reach out to. I think that they can capitalize off of this opportunity skyrocketing above how young men can at the mid-major and every sport level. And I think that's because women just come with more hats. And that's not a terrible thing. That's just kind of how it evolved into, right? Women have beauty, they have health, they have sport, they have this, they have motherhood, they have sisterhood, they have all these things that come with being a woman. And it's just so marketable. It really is. And it's really, and that's kind of one of the greatest things that makes a woman a leader is one of the big things that is kind of coming forward now as we're seeing young college student athletes can make money off of their name, image, and likeness. And that's kind of where I think and how it's going to turn is we're going to see women really catapult in this time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that for sure. My big thing right now or my biggest worry and my fear at first was how am I going to get these guys to listen to me or even see me really, right? Because when I first started, I was 25. I'm 26 now. So I'm around the same age, a couple years older. And then I'm a woman. I don't play football. I don't really know. I know some positions, but it's crazy because a lot of the time when I'm talking to them, it's like, well, you don't get it. You don't get it. And that's even coming from someone that was a former athlete, or saying that to someone that's a former athlete. But as I built relationships with them, and it literally just takes one. You find one that you build a relationship with and you become close with, and they start to trust you. Then it's like, yo, have you talked to Ms. Dotson about this? Or Ms. Dotson brought this up. Miss Alexis brought this up. Miss Lex brought this up. And then they start talking. I started to notice they started talking to each other, where it was like, Miss Lex asked me about my family, and I don't know why she asked me about my family too. Like it just, and they've never had that before.
Right.
And my big dream and my big goal is to become a director of player development or player engagement, whether that's in the NFL, NBA, WNBA, wherever that is, professionally. Because if you look at it right now, all you see are men in those positions. Granted, we do have some women. Shout out to our women that are holding it down, but a majority of it, of those positions, are held by men. And I think that comes from, oh, well, they played formerly in the NFL, so they get it.
Right.
But just because I didn't play in the NFL doesn't mean that I don't get it too. And I think women bring a whole different mindset that triggers men in a way, in a good way. We identify certain things that men don't see. We feel certain things sometimes that men don't feel, or don't feel yet, or don't see yet. We help bring those things out of you, and those different aspects out of you. So I think women leadership in sports is on the come up. And in all honesty, to all those little girls, all the women out there that want to go for it, I say go for it. There has been plenty of times where someone has looked at me crazy, and it's like, well, you fail at life sometimes, but it's okay. Like, you just keep pushing. And don't be I know I was intimidated at first. My students to this day still laugh at me. Because introducing myself to like 100 men on a Zoom call, that was intimidating at first. This past week was the first time that I saw all of them in person because of COVID, and I introduced one of our guest speakers. My heart was like, oh my gosh, but then it's like, oh man, it's just football players, it's football team. But it can be intimidating at first, but go for it. Build the relationships. I think that's the unique thing about us women, and something that we're very, very good at. Is building our relationships with young men.
Do you think that Faith and Alexis, your experience, not your relationship with your dads, your dads being athletes, and our stories and our experiences help you with navigating this type of path?
I definitely think it's had an influence. There's definitely moments where, I take anyone that I've come across with that I can be like, oh, that's like so-and-so that I can kind of connect with.
Mm-hmm.
It goes. Even my dad, for example, we're kind of similar in the way that we left home, right? And my dad, as much as he gets upset at me, dog, you didn't go back. Like, you stayed there in New Mexico. So, and my dad made it happen on his own. I've thankfully had some support, had support when I needed support from my parents, whether that's financially or whatever. But my dad made that happen on his own. And, I see a lot of my students who might not have that kind of support at home that I have. So, there's times where I think about how my dad's always like, it builds character. And just talking about it, yeah, and reflecting it definitely. And my relationship with my dad is so good that I feel like it also helps me in connecting with my students.
That's
Yeah. And I'll co-sign that in the fact that like every man or I come across, or even in a professional setting, I try to relate back to my experience in being raised by a man, or the close relationships I have had with, growing up with two men in my personal just space all the time, watching them and understand how they interact and how they handle conflict, or how they handle joy in general. And so I can't help but and that's one of my biggest things. A lot of things in life I bring back to what my dad would do, or how he would navigate that, whether it's good or bad. He's still kind of like my staple in how I kind of figure things out and navigate things, especially when it comes to grown men in sports settings. It is hard to not only communicate with, but also convince that they do need your help, or they need.
Oh yeah.
And that's not always the easiest thing, not because they think that you're unqualified, because that's a whole other thing. It's often because of just the very fact that it's just they can't hear past what's in front of them.
And it's even their backgrounds. A lot of them, no one even asked them, hey, how are you doing today? Or, and I think too, you can relate. I mean, we all can relate as athletes. Everybody wants something from us all the time. We're giving. We're putting out. But when do we get like someone to put something into us? Whether that is just a simple like, hey, how are you? I don't want anything from you. I just want to ask, like, literally, how are you doing? And especially in college, everybody wants something from you, whether that's at home and you got to pay for things at home, or whether that's here, your coaches constantly want something from you, your academic advisors, your professors, your friends, even sometimes, hey, yo, get me some fries from McDonald's. Like, literally everybody wants something from you as an athlete. And especially for men, they have this facade where it's like, oh, I can take care of everything. But when you finally have someone say, like, slow down for a second, it throws people off. And at first it's kind of like, why is she like that? And why is she asking me those questions? It's kind of weird. And then it turns into like, oh, okay, like I can trust her. And I think that point is just trust, because someone always wants something from you. But being able to recognize that you can trust someone just because they see you as a person and not just as an athlete,
right.
Or as a student, it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Dad, I don't know if you.
We lost her.
Lost her?
No, that's
back, please.
No, that's all right. That's the great thing about this show, man. Exactly. Connective. She'll be right back.
There she is.
I'm here. But what I was saying was that I'm just thinking through it, and just through the time, and even nowadays, now that these kids are going to make more money, just the overall mental health and like stillness of their brains, and like the ability to just like be comfortable and have people check in on them, and that is very important, just as much as it's important to make sure there's resources for them to navigate all the new stuff that they're going to be able to get to do. Now somebody's navigate, okay, how do we, because when you become an NBA player, when you become an NFL player, there's a rookie camp that you go through, and they tell you, hey, when a family member asks you for this, this is our psychology service, right? This is where you can go get help. Is this all being provided at the NCAA level? Because I can tell you that my experience at Duke, there wasn't a great psychology and therapist resources at all. I mean, it was 8 therapists for the entire school. And so when I'm thinking about it, and you think about like even you as an advisor, which is, it's not really your job to be checking in on these
people.
That's my biggest thing, and my biggest interest in this time period is like, now that student athletes are getting so much more independence and control, who is going to help them navigate these newfound waters? And
and that was me too. I think that's probably going to be one of my biggest things with research. NIL is a beautiful thing. I think it's amazing, but at the same time, I feel like people miss the little things that are really big. These students are going to they can make a lot of money. And I don't even think if I asked any of my students if they even read NIL, I guarantee you they said no. So all they see is money, 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 money. And it's not even, I'm not even just saying my students, but I mean, it's like a generational thing, right? Talk about, it's just quick money, any way that you can get quick money, but then they fail to realize like what comes with it.
Right.
And my worry at the time when I first heard of NIL was mental health, because not everybody will be getting the same endorsement deals. Not everybody will be getting the same attention. It's off your name, your image, and your likeness.
Right.
And I'm at HBCU. So they're now adding me in. There's 7 of us that are a support staff for 400 plus athletes. Like, our assistant director of support services is an advisor to like 3 or 4 teams. That's not normal. Now you add in NIL, like, who's going to do that? As our learning specialists? As learning specialists, are we supposed to do that? I mean, I call myself an advisor, but in all honesty, y'all, I'm just an intern. So I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to be able to educate everyone on that? And then as it is, HBCUs, everybody already knows we kind of struggle in the lack of with the lack of resources, but we make it work, we make it happen, we make it shake. And I just hope people really understand what comes with NIL, because this could also be, it could be a misservice to our students if we don't do it right.
Right. Or if they don't take an opportunity or even know how to take an opportunity the safe way, well planned out and thought way, that could be a big thing for these young kids, young adults, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's contracts involved. The kid can get a 1-page contract, you can get a 15-page contract. What's in these contracts, right?
Yeah.
Signing up for, does this align with who they are? And even the ones who maybe go to a smaller school. I've talked to a few student athletes this past week when everything opened up July 1st. And there's some kids who are like, I just want to prepare my platform and get started on who I can work with. And I'm like, well, you probably aren't going to make money, but the fact that you kind of are going into this with a positive outlook and it's not pressure, I said, that's probably the best way you can go about it. But you're right. There are going to be some people who are struggling. Like, why am I not making money? Why am I not seeing this? Why am I not seeing that? And it's so much bigger than the money thing. But when you all of a sudden create money that's easily accessible, everyone wants the money. And so that to me is the biggest thing. It's really not about the money, but people have their eyes on it right now. So this first year is going to be all about, I need to make this, I need to do this. There's so-and-so signed this deal. And it's like, really, you can make $10, but that $10 is your money. And so I commend you that it's bigger than plan it out, figure it out, make sure you understand that it's not end all be all.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Most def. I just really hope we figure something out just to help educate and support. As it is, I mean, from my own personal experience, transitioning out of sport, athlete development, taking care of everything outside of just performance, like what? I don't know. And then now we add in this, like, this is a big deal. They're low-key like mini pros at this point. And we don't have the same resources as NBA, NFL do. So, or WNBA, even, I mean, hockey, I don't know what they have, but just making sure that we're supporting our students literally the best way that we can. And I really hope NCAA gets a hold of that, because
they're behind the 8 ball right now. They got to get in front of this. I don't know if they ever. I think the horses are already on the track. People are signing endorsement deals. I mean, there's a whole nother dynamic of now those same parents, that are living vicariously through their kids are really jumping in there now. I mean, are we going to be a part of the recruiting process? What else are they going to give you, right? So that whole mental illness, healthy part of it is going to be really key. And that's why I wanted to pivot and have both of you talk a little bit about that, because this is huge. This is impactful. And this is going to be really interesting how we navigate this over the next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. And we got to talk some fun stuff, some girl dad stuff. That was awesome. It's always lovely. We have so many families and parents and people join us, and even parents who reach out to us later on trying to figure out and navigate it all. And it's, I think I can speak for me and my dad in the fact that it's one of those things you can't plan, or you have no idea how it's going to happen. You just kind of go with it and you try to enjoy it as you go on, because there's no way you can plan this process, becoming a collegiate athlete, or trying to become a professional athlete, or even just playing in sports. It's up in the air, that just like how sports is. That's the beauty of it.
Most definitely.
So we want to thank you guys for joining us for sure. I think this was an awesome show. Dad, what do you think?
We need 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, we could just go on and on and on, because when you do our storyboard and our topics, I mean, there's so many other things we could have touched on, but this is fantastic. And it just warms my heart to see the two of you. Don goes back a few years. I remember when he was a freshman showing Ball State with that look on his face, like, whoa, where am I?
Yeah.
But then watching how our lives run parallel, and then we have 2 beautiful daughters who are doing very well. We both are very proud, and it's just, just sharing how it was and sharing how it will be is something that I am so blessed to have this platform with our show to be able to share to our viewers, because our stories are healthy. You know, our stories are not perfect, but they're healthy. And, you know, for Alexis, for you to be able to say what you said to your dad, I know it was difficult for you, but you know, it's hard, you know, for us as dads, man. We don't want to let y'all go.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was just heartwarming. So I really appreciate you sharing with us. I really do.
Thank you for having us.
Oh,
Yes. Great show. Appreciate it.
yes.
We will see you guys soon. Have a wonderful, good rest of your week.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was wonderful. It's Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday and Friday with some shows. Wednesday, of course, we'll probably do a rerun because everyone's back at work, but we're going to find one that's fun. Thank you for joining us this special Monday morning. We want to thank our, of course, allies, Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and, of course, our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus, where we want to use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others on strengthening their family core. And go ahead, superstar.
Let go, let God. Let go, let faith. Let go, let love.
Everyone have a wonderful Monday and a safe rest of your week.